Take it away, Kelly.
Great. Thank you so much, Sailesh. Hello, everyone. I'm Kelly Kerr, and I've been working with Go Dharmic for the past 3 months, leading the U.S. operations. I am so honored to be part of this organization and witness firsthand the incredible work that Go Dharmic is doing around the world. And I'm thrilled to be part of the VCOP and Climate Healers volunteer team for over the past 6 years. Dr. Rao is a member of the board for Go Dharmic, and we're truly grateful to have his support. Go Dharmic is a humanitarian organization. It's a movement for compassion and action. We are founded on the principles of Dharma, love for all beings. Neem Karoli Baba, who is a source of inspiration for Go Dharmic, said, "Love is the strongest medicine. It is more important than electricity." And we are based firmly on the premise that love and compassion for all beings is the greatest pathways to a better world for a global community. We have over 10,000 volunteers around the world working tirelessly to serve people wherever there is a need. And we're always looking for people to support us in whatever way they are able to. By becoming a monthly patron, your support helps us in our mission. It helps us feed more people healthy plant-based food. It helps us support people who are facing disasters or other life-changing events that's beyond their control. It helps us serve more people now, and that support helps them make better life choices. And in making better choices, they are making the world a more kinder and compassionate place. So welcome everyone to our family. As Sailesh says, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, the world is one family, and that includes all beings on this planet. And we embrace this wholeheartedly at Go Dharmic. And if there's anyone who would like to get involved or support Go Dharmic by becoming a donor or a patron or a volunteer, or in any way that you are able to serve, please reach out to me or Sailesh, and he can put you in touch with me. And with that, we'd like to share a short clip from our Go Dharmic's documentary that we released last year, Ahimsa and the Environment, before HD speaks.
Will that be me that shows it?
Sailesh, will you be sharing it or do you need me to?
Yeah, go ahead.
Great.
Yeah. We're not hearing the sound, Ray.
Ahimsa is the opposite of himsa, and it has a very broad meaning. Namely, you can relate it to slaying, injury, hurt, harm, or causing pain to another. Not necessarily human beings only, because another can mean anything in the universe. Therefore, Ahimsa is not only non-violence, but is also an all-embracing philosophy which incorporates positive action towards protection, preservation, conservation, and love, or agape. Ahimsa is therefore not just the absence of violence, and does not only pertain to physical violence, but to all forms of violence. Moreover, it actually places a responsibility to take action towards building a positive energy towards a climate of oneness with the universe. And this is how Gandhiji would have defined it. Ahimsa requires us to conserve and restore our earth and our environment, and encourage respect and compassion.
Namaste, everyone. And I think, can you hear me okay? Am I audible? Is everything okay? Wonderful. So I'll begin. I can speak something about Ahimsa and the connection to the environment. And firstly, I'd like to caveat what I'm saying by there are far more wonderful and intelligent speakers like Dr. Sailesh Rao and all the wonderful guests you have on this show that you can learn much more from a scientific perspective, from an environmental perspective, all perspectives, in fact, spiritual perspective also. But that being said, I'd still like to share something from the heart, and deeply appreciative to be with you all, and deeply thankful that you are all here on a Saturday for this important event, important cause, and making that effort. So with that in mind, the topic is Ahimsa in the environment, and hopefully we can leave some time for engaging on questions and discussion also if we have the opportunity. But initially, I'd like to share a few words that might be foreign to some of you, might be very known to some of you, and the meaning. And initially, we'll start with the names of our organization. So our organization is called Go Dharmic. Now, the English word go, in what context do we
lose him?
Yes, it appears we've lost him.
Yeah, I think he was talking about the English word go, but action. But it also, in Sanskrit, go means the cow. Go Mata. Yes, mother cow. So I think maybe that's where he was going. And Dharma means what is the right thing to do. Maybe wait for him.
I just tried calling him to just let him know in case he didn't know that Higgins is still talking.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah. Well, Kelly, did you want to continue sharing something about Go Dharmic?
Sure. I mean, sorry, there's a bit of an echo.
Yeah, we'll turn off my.
Sorry about that. Yeah. So like I said, I'm still new to the organization, but the work that they do is just incredible, like I said, they serve to be wherever there's a need, and they have volunteers around the world. We give out thousands of healthy plant-based meals every week throughout India, the UK, and in LA. On top of just we have many campaigns, and that's really what drives Go Dharmic is our social action campaigns. So you can join and participate in whichever campaign that might move you to want to participate in. But the love all, feed all, serve all, and HD Sailesh likes to say heal all as well, which I love. that is something that we're doing across 3 different countries now regularly. But we also have planted hundreds of thousands of mangrove trees in India. We've done digitalization of for libraries in India. We've helped when the war started in Ukraine. We were at the border giving out humanitarian packets. So we really do aim to be wherever there's a need. So from I know that HD was going to get into the meaning behind it. So I'm not going to speak to that because that's stuff that I'm still learning. But just in terms of what we do, for a small organization, we do incredible work, and we hope to just grow that and bring that, especially the food poverty alleviation campaign to the US as well, which is what my goal is with joining Go Dharmic for the US.
Thank you, Kelly. Yeah. So I resonate with the organization very much so, because the idea of dharma, which is dharma is what is the right thing to do at any given time. And this is, you can see so much chaos happening around the world. You see all this violence, unnecessary wars, and people are being starved to death. And it may feel like it's overwhelming when you see all this violence around you. But when you start acting, when you start asking the right questions, start asking, is it possible to feed everyone? And the answer is absolutely it's possible to feed everyone. Why? Because we're already feeding 90 billion land animals and killing them every year. So can we not feed 8 billion human beings? Yes, we can. So then the question is, how do you go about doing it? And we have to start, right? Start feeding them healthy plant-based foods. So is it possible to get every human being healthy? That's what Dr. Alan Goldhammer was talking about. Yeah? Yes, it's possible to get every one of us healthy. We are being misled and made to eat things, do things that destroy ourselves, destroy our health, because our health is being mined for profit at the moment. So fundamentally, if I look at why is our government feeding our children unhealthy food? They know to be unhealthy food. What happened to make them do that? It's because then you realize that there is this big push between corporations and children. There's a big battle going on as to which way should we pull the world. Do we make them make the customers for the next generation of diabetes and heart disease patients and stroke patients, because there's so much money being made, trillions of dollars being made. So do we grow the economy or do we heal the planet? And the governments are siding on the side of let's grow the economy instead of healing the planet. And our children are stuck. And so we as adults have to choose sides now. Which side are we on? Are we on the side of corporations or are we on the side of the children of the world? Children of all species, not just human children. The children of all species are impacted by our actions. And when we have agency, when we can choose to do what we want to do, I believe that we have an obligation to side on behalf of the children of the world, and say that these so-called people, corporations. I think all this started when the Supreme Court declared that corporations are also people. So then governments of the people, by the people, for the people became governments of the corporations, by the corporations, and for the corporations. And corporations are also made up of people, but they have a certain motivation and objective, which is to make money and profit. And they see others, lives as collateral damage. If children are getting sick as a result of that, that's collateral damage. We need to make our money, right? And so now we have to ask our governments, are you really on the side of the people? Did we not elect you to be on the side of the people? And you can get results when you ask such questions. This is what Dotsie Bosch is showing in at Switch for Good, by basically asking the USDA, why are you feeding our children unhealthy food? And now, they are beginning to turn around and say, okay, you don't have to feed them this dairy. And dairy is the key, if you ask me, because without dairy, you won't have cheap beef. Without dairy, you won't have cheap leather. It's like persuading people to consume dairy, that we are persuading them to pay for the upkeep of the cow on a daily basis. And so then when the mother cow finishes giving milk, she's considered spent, so to speak, she's all paid for. Okay? So this is how they view it. And she's all paid for, and therefore her flesh becomes cheap beef. So to me, dairy is the desecration of motherhood on the planet. Of all mothers, it's a desecration of motherhood. And so Mother Earth is screaming at us saying, stop this. Because if we stop it and we go create a plant-based economy in a vegan world, and this is why I said this is the right time to be doing VCOP 17 and the vegan convergence of the peoples, because we are saying stop the destruction of the planet and start being serious about solving our environmental crisis. Because right now they are sort of trying to distract us. Go focus on Gaza and all these other things, right? And fight among each other while we make money off your body. So I say that if we can get rid of the dairy industry, we will solve all our problems immediately, meaning everything will collapse around it. That's the core of it. And in Go Dharmic, I've been trying to get Go Dharmic, to see that importance of the healthy plant-based diet, healthy plant-based foods being given to everyone. Let's have a question and answer, while we're waiting for HD. We're trying to figure out what happened to him.
I don't think, I'm hoping he's coming back in.
Okay. Ken, go ahead.
Yeah. So why is India so resistant to getting rid of dairy? Why is dairy buried so deeply in the lifestyle of India, with special foods that we don't even eat in the U.S.? So can you talk a little bit about that? Because I think it's rather fascinating. I really feel like India has a huge influence on the world at this point and the direction we go.
Absolutely. Before we get to that, HD is back, but I will answer that question for you, Ken, later. HD is back, and let me see. Are you ready, HD, to continue? I don't want to take up your time. Yeah, India has a long association with the cow and dairy, because India has a long association with lots of stories that involved cows. But there you are. Okay. Continue.
Oh,
You got muted again. Okay.
can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. I'm very sorry I lost connection somehow. I was speaking about the idea of Ahimsa and its connection with Dharma, and how it's such a vital ideological idea for all advocacy and for coming together around peace advocacy. there is a verse which says, Ahimsa Paramo Dharma. I would also like to share something, Dr. Rao, perhaps something on what you was just mentioning there as I just joined, which is an interesting point, is that all of these scriptures of the world, I personally think we need to look at them, and if there was a standard that is not acceptable to our current day understanding of morality and ethics, then we should discard or disregard that idea, because it does not meet our current understanding of the application of those values. We shouldn't throw away the baby with the bathwater. So for me, ahimsa is a beautiful idea. You know, it's a wonderful concept for reducing harm, both used by Mahatma Gandhi for civil resistance and, you know, to fight injustice of racism and colonialism and, you know, kind of foreign domination. It was used by Martin Luther King Jr. to stand up for civil rights, and now should be used in the environmental movement to support people, and to be used as a way and a tool for reducing harm. Ahimsa Paramo Dharma means ahimsa is the highest dharma in Sanskrit. And for me, we have to become patrons of this idea to really be able to take this forward as a global society. As we know, the world currently has trillions of dollars spent on military and warfare. Maybe 35 to 40 trillion dollars a year is spent in this regard, but only maybe about $4 billion is used for peace building. So for us as a peace society, as somebody that's promoting peace through environmental action, through non-violence, for animal welfare, we must increase investment into this space. We must increase attention into this space, media-wise or monetary-wise, and we have to, you know, kind of organize in a way that can increase the understanding of what it means to go vegan, why to go vegan, what is the real intention behind the shift, and also to reduce suffering in the world. So for me, Mahatma Gandhi is speaking about a philosophy that transcends just you know, physical violence. It goes beyond just the physical violence. It's also our thoughts. It's our words. It's our deeds. So even through our advocacy, we should not be violent. Even through our thoughts, we should not be violent. And then through our actions, we should not be violent. Reducing harm, treading gently on the earth. When speaking to another person about even the environment, about animal welfare, are we being violent in our method of communication? Can we be more loving? Can we increase love in the world through our smiles, through our eyes, through our hearts, through our deeds? For me, that is creating a softer, gentler, more loving world. One who is not envious, but is kind friend to all living entities, who does not think of himself as a proprietor and is free from false ego, who is equal in both happiness and distress, who is always working for the welfare of the world. That person understands the nature of reality. These are the words of the Bhagavad Gita. And for me, a great example for how we can act and work in the world. So how can we apply this ancient idea of ahimsa to environmental action? One is understanding and sharing the interconnectedness of all life. The idea that harming the environment ultimately harms ourselves. Now, maybe we live in a world where people are very much self-occupied and they should care for oneself. You know, I think we have to love ourselves and we have to love the world. And so ultimately that idea of self to widen and expand to increase the whole world. So as the whole world is understood to be our very self and we are all interconnected, then the idea arises that harming our environment ultimately harms ourselves. Now, examples of environmental violence: deforestation, pollution, habitat destruction, exploitation of animals, Now, if we just think about one example that Dr. Rao shared with me when he was in London, that wild mammals are only down to 4%. Now, when do we stop? At 3%, 2%, 1%? Where do we stop? 96% farm animals, factory farm animals, and human beings. It's a madness of violence that is. My friend Professor Peter Singer actually said that he argues is one of the worst crimes of humanity what we have done to the animal kingdom, and I agree with him. It's one of the worst. So how we apply the philosophy of non-violence to understanding the animal kingdom. And yes, as Dr. Rao mentioned, many people in India, or many people understanding these Indian values and ideas, have a great reverence for the cow. But actually, I believe that we need to consider not what people did in the past or what are doing. When we really think about the application of the idea of non-violence, then there is no doubt. In the modern day, just apply this principle of non-violence. How can we reduce harm in the most maximum way possible? Then there is no doubt, there's no argument, because here there is never any argument. Only argument exists here. Debate exists here, argument exists here. Love only knows love. And we all know what the right thing to do is. It's not to eat animals. It's not to harm animals. It's to take care of the animals that can't take care of themselves, and to give back the land and give back the forests and give back nature to the animals so that they can coexist alongside us. A place that we work with Go Dharmic, the Dharma Forest in West Bengal, a beautiful biodiverse region where 60% of the forest has been destroyed. Now, we were serving the very poor people who live, many of them with less than $5 a day in this forest region, many tribal people. They every year are flooded and hit by cyclones because the forest is not there to protect the people who have lived there for thousands of years because of deforestation. And this is the home of the Bengal tiger, huge biodiversity, fish and fauna and various animal species, and even dolphins existing in the Ganges rivers there. And when I see this beautiful place being destroyed, it's an act of great violence. So one of our projects is the Dharma Forest to help try and replant this forest for protecting the environment, for protecting the people, for protecting the animals. And it's a great act of compassionate action. So it's something that we need to do more of. We need to help increase the reverence for nature, spiritual reverence for nature, viewing the environment as sacred, viewing the environment as our very self. And ahimsa in daily life now, we can talk about. How does one take these high-minded ideals? Gandhiji called it practical idealism. He called his the nature of his work actually practical idealism. So we can go vegan. Number one thing we can do to reduce the harm from an immediate perspective to the world, we can do. This event is for that, but I think, we're using different lenses or sharing different ideas and different touch points which can add value to that choice. We can reduce the waste we produce individually. We can conserve resources. We can support eco-friendly initiatives rather than, as Gandhiji said, the whole world has enough for everybody's need, but not enough for a single person's greed. Reduce our overall consumption and look to help others to uplift their lives from the privileged perspectives that we have, and make that a priority rather than more and more and more, which is only destroying the planet. So a form and application of environmental ahimsa is mindful consumption, being conscious of the environmental impact of our purchases and the actions we do. And taking these kind of practical steps. Another very easy step today is we are connected to the world. How can we use these digital platforms like this wonderful event that we're doing for supporting advocacy initiatives that reduce harm to our environment and increase animal welfare, increase ahimsa, and Dharma advocacy around the world. That is something that we feel very strong about at Go Dharmic, and it's one of the main areas of our work. One of the 6 key areas of our work is advocacy, education, awareness, spreading the message of Ahimsa and the relevance to the modern world. I really believe that we take a lot from the spiritual traditions of the world, from the wisdom traditions of the world, but we don't share it enough. So just like we inbreathe this wisdom, let us share it wider to the world, and keep sharing it with love and compassion as the plates for this wisdom. Because if we don't use love and compassion as the tool, then we are actually, in one way, increasing violence. So cultivate compassion, cultivate empathy, cultivate mindfulness in our interactions with other living beings, and then expand that love and compassion through our heart-to-heart interactions. My spiritual teacher was Ram Dass. Many of you who may be in the US will have come across his name as a spiritual teacher. And when I sat with him, he was such a happy, loving being. When I sat in front of him, you know what he said to me? He said, Hanuman Dass, I will give you my everything. I will give you everything I have. And to you, my friends on this call, that's my promise, that I will give you my everything. Whatever resources, tools, energy we have at our disposal to share this message of animal welfare, compassion for our environmental action, let us give everything we have towards this cause, but with love and compassion, so that we are all truly realizing Vasudeva Kutumbakam, that the world is one family. This personal transformation of cultivation of compassion and mindfulness in our interactions. Let us remember this, because we can be led to anger. Why is this not happening? We can get frustrated. We can get angry that this is not happening quick enough. And yet we must try to remain in the heart and spread love. Gandhiji till the end, it took him longer to achieve the goals, but he did it with love. So I just want to perhaps conclude at this point and kind of share that, what I consider Go Dharmic to be is a part of the peace army of the world. In Sanskrit, we call this word Shanti Sena, an army of peace. Now, armies are there all over the world, very angry, ready to act in terms of warfare, very necessary somewhat to defend one's borders or to defend one against, attack. But more important is the peace army. And peace army can do wonderful things. Mahatma Gandhi achieved so much for Indian independence through non-violent means, through compassionate action, and he was a lawyer. He didn't have training in politics or anything like that. Vinoba Bhave, there is a beautiful book called Shanti Sena, Peace Army. And Vinoba Bhave, a beautiful activist who I love, he walked barefoot around India, telling the rich landlords to give up a bit of land for the poorest people that you could find, like literally the landless, people who had no food to eat, no nothing. He would say to the richest people, can you give up a portion of your land? And can you also help the poorest people to farm that land? So not only did they give up land, he taught them to farm on that land, to produce vegetables, so that they could sustain their living, they could live, they could get support from them. And this one humble individual, Vinoba Bhave, he managed to get donated the land the size of Scotland, an entire country, individual walking barefoot around India. What is possible through our advocacy, through our work in such a short lifetimes? So, there's that famous phrase that, people overestimate what we can achieve in such a short time period, but underestimate what we can achieve over the next 5-10 years of, impressive advocacy and hard work and, walking and sharing. And, I'm so inspired by Dr. Sailesh Rao, who travels incessantly to share this message of love and activism with all of you and all of the world. And, I just welcome you all to be a part of Go Dharmic, to be a part of this, effort for, based on these kind of ancient spiritual values, increasing love in our world. I want to end there and, maybe open up to discuss with you all, rather than talking, because I'm here to learn more than anything else, and recap the importance of Ahimsa as a guiding principle in our lives. but also emphasize the urgency of applying this ahimsa to the critical environmental situation that we currently have. So we should be urgent, but we should also be here now. We should be love now. We should be compassion now. And we should do whatever we can, like that captain for the Titanic when it was sinking. And we go and do whatever we can to make a difference. Thank you, everyone. And apologies for the connection being lost.
No, it was beautiful. It's worth the wait, HD. It really was. I'm reminded of Dr. Melanie Joyce saying that you need the 3 C's in order to be effective as an activist. And you exemplify that. Those 3 C's are curiosity, so your mind is open; compassion, your heart is open; and courage, your chakra is open, that you can transform what's necessary. So, thank you so much. Tammy? You're on. Please unmute yourself.
Thank you. I look a little disheveled. I'm doing yoga right now. I'm listening to your talk because I'm very kinesthetic. So if I actually do something while I'm listening, I absorb more, which is part of loving, that loving act of self-knowledge, right? So thank you. The examples of other individuals who have just chosen to take their grief, their awareness, and turn it into creative action is powerful. And the thing that I grapple with periodically, which I'd really love some feedback on, is that I don't always feel that the most loving thing to do with someone or to speak with somebody is always necessarily calming them or making them feel, sometimes it's like, no, this isn't okay. I'm not okay with this, or this doesn't feel like just speaking out, even with my granddaughter, because they absorb. My granddaughter's 5 and they're not being raised vegan. And she said, Oma, my friend Avi loves animals. I said, oh, so she's a vegan. And she said, no, she's not a vegan. I said, oh, but she eats some animals and loves animals. So that's kind of weird. And then I just leave it at that. And I could see the wheels turning. And if I just didn't say anything, or I said, oh, she loves animals, that's nice. So I struggle with this a little wee bit at times, does love always, so here's my question. I just feel that love doesn't always feel fuzzy and sweet and soft. So there we go. Sorry for taking the long way around that question.
Well, that's a beautiful question. And the Bhagavad Gita, which is a text on yoga, which Dr. Rao speaks about often, it says this is as hard as catching the wind. I love that comment. Can be both gentle and muscular. Like, this is not an easy path that we're choosing. But how many people in the world actually choose love? How many people will choose that? There's so many, like if we look how divisive social media is, or how the world is acting in a certain way, the very definition of the term yoga in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali is yogas chitta vritti nirodha. Yoga is the stilling of the mind, the calming of the mind. So when we are like a water, if that water is muddy and the mud is flowing all throughout that water, when the water is very violent and moving around, then we don't actually understand. We can't see the clarity of the water. But if the water is still, then we can actually, all the mud drops to the bottom automatically, and we can see clearly what we are trying to achieve. So I think there's my friend, Professor Peter Singer, he said to me, he's creates ethical arguments for veganism and, animal welfare, and, wants to kind of teach people about animal welfare. He wrote Animal Liberation. But he said, somebody was telling him, Professor Singer, I loved your talk. I absolutely agree with every argument you said. And he's saying that while he's cutting up a chicken and eating it, it's complete, going against what he was arguing. So I think we maybe cannot change everyone outside what they are going to react, but certainly we have a control over our inner faculties, and that's yoga. Actually, is that it's the control of creating our letting that water drop, so we can actually do clear work in the world, and otherwise, I'm fearful that we need to not bring violence into the world. We have to bring more peace, which is love, which is the animal welfare that we are speaking for. Not necessarily fuzzy. Yeah, I agree with you. It doesn't need to be fuzzy or soft or something. It can be compassionate, and it can be fierce love, but it shouldn't be harmful.
Right. Fierce love instead. That's in our pledge of the Million Vegan Grandmothers, is our fierce love for the grandchildren of all species. It
That's
compels
beautiful.
us to act. Compels us to act.
Yeah, we must act. Yeah, there's another verse in the Gita which says, "For the benefit of the world, you should act." It says clearly that. So it doesn't say to go away to the Himalayas and just sit quietly and not do anything. We have to be engaged, applying this knowledge that interconnectedness exists. We must act for that interconnectedness. Yeah.
DJ?
Thank you. I had a question in the chat, and I'm going to elaborate. I'm going to say a little bit more about it. But first, thank you so much. I loved your talk, and I loved how you connected even to non-religious and people of other religions. And I was contemplating how you did that. And then the other thing I wanted to ask was, have you been to war-torn countries? Have you been around the poorest of the poor? Because I think, does that mean, because many of us have not, and so how do we speak with the compassion that's needed? So I think that's my question.
Yeah. War-torn countries, I've been on the borders of Ukraine and Poland. So not on Russia, but I was on the border of Lviv in Ukraine when 35,000 refugees a day were pouring through the borders, and seeing, grandmothers and grandfathers and, women carrying their young children and their pets in small cages and, kind of boxes, rushing across the border and walking across, and seeing that suffering of, 30,000 people every day running out of Ukraine. Admittedly, these were not people who were, the poorest people in the world, but they were war-torn, and they were in a disaster zone, and they were incredibly fearful and scared. And, one of the things I took from that experience is sometimes just giving a child a small, piece of fruit, or, a small, gift can bring a smile from ear to ear and bring that spark of joy even in the most difficult circumstances. I've extensively traveled in India, where there's very, very great poverty. In some places there's great wealth now. It's a fastly developing nation, but there is 1.3 billion people there. And there's great environmental damage and great poverty still in many places where people, earn and live less than $5 a day. So like the Sundarbans, where I travel to in West Bengal, which is cyclone ridden, and you see the effects of cyclones with people living waist high in water, and it's tremendously difficult to stomach. When you see children not being able to go to school because they're waist high in water, there are no jobs, there is no food. So sometimes, it can be very difficult to stomach and to live with, but it does give you perspective on how privileged we all are in our lives, and with that privilege, the responsibility for the rest of the world that we sometimes close our eyes to and we kind of, ignore. I would just quickly share that Peter Singer, he would often ask people, tell people a story of a car in China. And he said that, this car hits a young baby and the baby falls on the floor. And all the cars are driving around the baby and just moving on. And then he would say, who thinks this video is awful? Like, he shows them a video of this incident happening, and he asks, and everybody in the crowd puts their hands up. And then he said, what if I told you that we are these people who are driving around it right now for the animals, or for, children in Nigeria that could die of malaria for wanting of a $15 net that could protect their lives, or $50 to cure somebody's blindness. Like we're allowing that to happen every day in our lives as a rich civilized society. So I feel like although it's important to be there and to experience it firsthand and to be there present, actually now with technology the way it is, we can make that difference to those people directly.
Yeah. And I think you touched upon the key to it, HT, when you talked about organizing the peace army. Basically putting some structure to it and making sure that people have a way to contribute and know that they're causing the planet to get better, the world to get better as a result of their deployment. So Nancy asked this question. It's rather long, so let me read it to you. So thank you for your work. You're speaking to us, mostly gentle, compassionate vegans who are facing a whole system of capitalism, imperialism, the foundations of which began and continue to function by measuring wealth on the caps, or the heads of cattle, and based on confinement, enslavement, torturing, and killing our sister brother animals for profit or pleasure, and wage slavery of workers, and exploiting and abusing the planet. What, in your opinion, can dismantle this whole system, which maintains its enslavement of animals, wage slavery, profit-making through violence, maintained with armies, weapons, prisons, the death penalty, the legal system, etc.? Do you think vegan activism can succeed against this corrupt, overwhelming system?
So yes, I think it can.
Yes.
I'm optimistic. I'm hopeful. I also think, reframing it ideologically around Ahimsa, so that it's holistically more inclusive. Like, vegan activism is a form of Ahimsa in action. And, so just to share, like Mahatma Gandhi, he was sitting on the edge of the riverbed, and he recognized that there was a tax that the British were charging of salt in India, and it was 7,000% tax on salt. Now, Gandhiji recognized that all of the beaches in India produce salt for free, and yet they were charging this thousands of percent tax on salt in India. Now, what he decided to do is he decided to get everybody in the country to make salt. And he said, I'm going to walk 450 kilometers from Ahmedabad to Dandi, and I'm going to make salt, and I want every single person around me to make salt. And then there'll be so much salt, will fill the prisons of the whole country. They were rather than extracting millions of dollars of wealth from India, it will cost them to look after us in the prisons, and then they'll have to leave. So there are non-violent ways of achieving the objective, but we'll have to be creative. We'll have to come up with interesting campaigns and novel ways of producing the results without harming another living being, and it can be done with love if we are smart and creative and wonderful. So I always think of that salt ride, and in fact, if anybody wants to cycle with us or walk with us, we take people on this salt ride trip every year from Ahmedabad to Dandi.
Yeah, there is a move to create the equivalent of the salt march, but this time for health and hunger. Eliminate hunger. Food is available. So give away food. Yeah. Before we get to you, Tammy, there's one other question in the chat I wanted to ask you, HT. Why is India one of the top exporters of beef while maintaining cows are most sacred, and most of the Indian population does not seem aware of this? What is the best way to raise this awareness, and what is a good goal to work toward?
I agree that most of India is, not aware. In fact, I was at the World Economic Forum earlier in February or March, and it was actually celebrated at one of the India houses that India's buffalo meat is largest exporter in the world, or one of the top. I saw it on a pamphlet with horror, being there. And so look, it is what it is, right? We are taking the ideal of Ahimsa and applying that to the best of our ability, using the greatest ethical scholars and wonderful hearts and minds of our time. Now, there's 1 billion people who have suffered from 1,000 years of domination and struggle and poverty and colonialism and, domination that is perhaps not allowing them to concentrate on these important ideas. And they've been fighting for poverty, and they've been fighting for a little bit of upliftment. And, that's led them in a different way. I would say we shouldn't focus on, what the existing situation is. We should focus on what we want, and what should be the desirable outcome based on our logic, based on our understanding of Ahimsa and non-harming and interconnectedness and global compassion and understanding, and we know what we need to do. So India is what it is. The world is what it is. UK is what it is. Our job is to love all, feed all, serve all, and figure out how we can make this world a better place. Ram Dass, on his puja table, when he would struggle with George Bush at the time of the Iraq War and all of this kind of stuff. So what he would do is he would have a picture of Jesus, he would have a picture of the Buddha, he would have a picture of Neem Karoli Baba, and he would have his old saints and sages and, Krishna, and he would bow down to all of the Buddha and Jesus and Krishna and Ram and, all of the saints. And then he would put a picture of George Bush next to them, and he would say, "Hello, George," in a loving, gentle way, to try to extend compassion even to the people who are creating such violence. So let us bow down also to those people who are causing violence, and pray, hope, and wish, and do what we can to encourage them to change their ways.
Tammy?
Thank you. I see Ray had a question in the chat too, so I can just ask that first, and then I will share something from the grandmothers. But so Ray had asked, we're a volunteer organization, the Million Vegan Grandmothers, Climate Healers, and all these convergences. We start organizing as soon as one ends. We start organizing for the next one. So how does that relate to Dharma? Was Ray's question, and then I will ask mine after.
Could you elaborate on the question, if possible, Ray? Like, what do you mean? How does volunteering relate to Dharma?
What is the connection between Dharma, volunteers, addressing current suffering, and changing harmful systems? So.
And volunteers take a big role in what Go Dharmic does as well. So I'm very interested about that.
Sure. I mean, I bow down to the volunteers first. For me, volunteers who give their time, their talent, and not only just they give their time and their efforts, or something, they give their treasure as well. They earn money in their jobs, then they commit it towards, helping in the world and making a difference. They're living out their dharma, giving whatever we can. Obviously, we do need to sustain ourselves as well, and our livelihoods and our families and life and so on. So I think, both are very important. Volunteers who give everything towards the cause are the bedrock of the progress, that's necessary. I think if you look at civil rights movement, majority of people who are engaged in marches or, standing up for good causes or, everything, they're all mostly volunteers. So I think it starts with the volunteerism of that inner action to want to do something selfless. Just quickly on the Gita, selfless service is everything. When we doing it for the welfare of others, that for me is everything. Now you can still be selfless and have some benefit, like they say the helper's high, right? Like science is showing that people who are volunteering are happier than people who are not volunteering. So sometimes you can say that volunteering can actually be selfish, because it makes us feel very good for volunteering. So I love that. That's good selfishness. The Dalai Lama will say, let's all be selfish and help others, help the animals, because we'll feel better for ourselves. I had farmer crying on my shoulder. He didn't want to let the cows go anymore. He was a beef farmer. 20 years beef farming, his family farm and stuff. He was crying on my shoulder. He said, Hanuman, I don't want to do it anymore. I don't want to do it anymore. You know, I love these cows. I look after them. I know them by names. I know them. And then he stopped doing it. And he was so happy, you know, caring for the cows. So good, selfish volunteering is a good thing, Ray, I think. And I just bow down to people. We have all these volunteers around the world who come forward. They work in disaster zone, in Turkey earthquake, in the Pakistan floods, in all these disasters around Lebanon when there's a big disaster. So many volunteers working around the Gaza situation from all different organizations around the world serving. Wow. You know, incredible. They're giving their life to it. And whatever we can give, we should give, you know, in our capacities.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's also such a great antidote to that idea that everybody sees problems and goes, whose job is it to deal with this? Well, if you're a volunteer, you have a volunteer heart, you realize it's your job, that you can be part of that solution. And, you know, who can't be a volunteer? It starts to become a world project rather than just Go Dharmic doing something. You're channeling so much energy and that goodwill, and that's such an important part.
Yeah, thank you. I agree, and I would request, you know, all of us to stay in touch, to work intermittently, and, you know, work. We have to. I think Steve Jobs defined it like this: we have to tumble together. We have to keep going back and forward and move forward. Okay, what do we do now? What's the next step? What's the next step? It's not about having a nice conference and, you know, then our work is done. It's tomorrow morning. What's the Monday morning thing? What's the afternoon?
Right.
What's the evening? Dr. Rao, when he came to my home, you know, he came, I invited him for dinner. He immediately sat down and said, I'm giving a talk for 1 hour on Ahimsa, and then, you know, Bhagavad Gita, and, you know, talking about environmental action presence. So like that way, it has to become a part of our daily existence and everything we do for the thing. So, you know, we become the Dharma, we become the Ahimsa, we become the vegan, you know, ideal, which we are trying to promote for me. And that's why, you know, I love this community so much. I was very excited to kind of be with you all and share that energy and, you know, kind of thankfulness and gratitude to this work. And, you know, we would love we need all of your support. Frankly speaking, you know, to do more of this and share this, we need your support. We need your energy. We need your goodwill, your desire, your assistance to be able to reach more people and you know, feed people who are like, so that no children are going to school hungry, not only in India or in Africa or in faraway places, but also here in the US or in the UK or in, you know, locally. Like, there's more than enough food for everyone. You know, we shouldn't, nobody should be going hungry. So that's the first thing, you know, healthy vegan meals for everybody. And let's share. I'll leave it for Kelly to share the social. I just saw a comment about social media and all of this thing. Maybe Kelly, you can share some details. And, you know, happy to speak with anybody about the work that we do, and, you know, kind of how we can be further engaged in any way, Dr. Rao. But I want to also be respectful of time here, because I do tend to go on a lot.
Thank you. It was all good. Thank you so much.